This is a GPS-1 walkthrough for agent education and training purposes. Remember, the GPS-1 is an educational meeting. There is nothing that potential client needs to bring to the meeting other than themselves. The combination of the free education that we give on the front end of this meeting and that software demo that we give on the back end of this meeting, it should build the appropriate interest to take the next action step, which is to get that data worksheet filled out and to go into a GPS-2 to get their personal presentation, savings report to see what possibilities they have for their specific situation for the appropriate parties, help them check out and continue. When somebody shows up, frame the conversation. Let them know there's nothing to buy today. There's no big decisions to make today, but one of the decisions and the only decision that we have to make is, like I said, at the end of this, that they get value. They want to see what their numbers are. We introduce the data worksheet. Go ahead and schedule the GPS-2. So in an education meeting here, and we want to reinforce that some of the things they learn here, they can immediately implement into their own financial plan. This is where we would introduce ourselves as the educator. You don't need to go into a long background about who you are. Professionally, get right down to the point. You want to establish authority. Why is it that the person on the other end should be listening to you? And that can be, kind of summed up in terms of the approach and our why. So professionally speaking, this is what I do day in and day out. Money coach, teaching people how money works. Specifically, this meeting and this education has to do with a debt to wealth transfer process that we'll teach. And then at the end of this meeting, I usually give away a couple free gifts so that we can continue the conversation about money. Those are How Money Works Masterclass Part 1 and Part 2. So being that the potential client did not have to bring anything to this meeting, there were no prerequisites, we let them know we're going to use a sample couple. And guys, when you're using a sample couple, lay this out in a story-like format. Facts tell, stories sell. So even though there's nothing to buy in this meeting, a lot of the trust, rapport, credibility, and the buying decision will be made in this meeting by the other side. So we let them know we're going to meet John and Rebecca. This is a sample couple of ours. We're going to kind of take a look at their situation, what they were facing, some alternative decisions they made, the outcome of that, and then we can always compare it against if they had done nothing at all. So the monthly budget, this is John and Rebecca's budget. So every month they have living expenses that equal around $4,000. Of that, they have a primary mortgage right around $1,200. Now on the opposite side of that, they have monthly net income after taxes, $5,000. That means after their living expenses and obligations, they should have on any given month about $1,000 discretionary left over. Some of our clients have more discretionary. Some of our clients have less discretionary. I've ran reports where somebody had almost no discretionary income, and the end result of the possibilities saved significant time and money. So this is the sample couple. This is their budget. This is what this presentation will be based around. First of all, the banking principles is something that John and Rebecca learned. So they learned that from us, and they implemented these banking principles to take advantage of for their own situation. There's 8 of them. These are the same banking principles that financial institutions as well as banks and lenders have been using for many decades to do exactly what we're talking about today, which is converting debt to wealth. With these banking principles, a side note, our algorithm, a big piece of that code is the banking principles. And the 3 that we're going to concentrate on today are interest cancellation, offset account, and strategic debt payoff. First of all, we want to open and make sure that we understand the closed-end loan. For John and Rebecca and for many of us, that home that we purchase is going to be the biggest investment, the biggest purchase of our life. So we need to make sure that we understand that loan that's associated with the house and the mortgage, it's what's classified as a closed-end loan, meaning you want to envision it as a one-way street. The only thing that we can do is make payments into that loan or mortgage. There's no withdrawals, whether it's a new home purchase or a refinance. The amortization schedule was already preset when we closed off on the loan, and we just signed off on that. And the interest is calculated from the month-end principal balance. So our mortgage is a closed-end loan. That in itself is not the issue. The issue arises with the amortization of that loan. That creates a banking principle called interest accumulation. If we are the debtor, then interest accumulation is money working against us. If we're the lender, interest accumulation is money working for us. So for John and Rebecca, when we broke this down, they borrowed $200,000 to buy their home. They received a 6% interest rate. That gives us the $11.99 payment that we saw in the budget. Now they agreed to a 30-year mortgage, which equals 360 total payments. The problem is, if they do not refinance and they get through the entirety of this 30-year cycle, look at this. The real cost of that $200,000 home is now $431,000 and change, which means the total interest paid down here in red, or the volume of interest, $231,000, exceeds the principal loan amount that John and Rebecca borrowed. This is an excessive amount of money. You need to get the other side understanding that. So you need to get some, interaction here, a little bit of engagement to make sure they understand that's a lot of money. That's an excessive amount of money. And then you need to understand, or help them understand, your position and what you're trying to help them do and what we help our clients do. This number down here, we refer to as the bank's profit. Our job is to help our clients eliminate as much of the bank's profit as possible, put that money back into their pocket, their financial plan, whatever it is they're trying to do, and we'll discover that through the process of interacting with them. So, how do we get to that almost criminal interest paid? Well, it comes from, like we said, the amortization of that loan. So if we were on a road trip, we plug the coordinates into the GPS, we're looking for the shortest, most efficient route to our end destination. The lender on their plan, on their route, has us on the longest route, full of the most twists and turns, and that's to keep us confused, make the most money possible. So we already know what their mortgage payment is every month. John and Rebecca pay $11.99.10. In the amortization of that loan, in month 1 of their schedule, this is the principal amount, this is the interest, which means 83% of that total payment, nothing but interest. Now it does get better. In month 2, we have a flip-flop of $1. $1 more goes to principal, $1 less goes to interest. Not a big flip-flop, but it is making a tiny bit of progress. Year 1, look at this. John and Rebecca here, basically just spinning their wheels. There's not a whole lot going on other than them continuously giving the mortgage servicer month in, month out payments. Year 5, 60 months into the mortgage for John and Rebecca. Let's check for them and see how it's going. 60 months into this mortgage, they have paid $72,000 in mortgage payments. On those payments, they've established less than $14,000 in equity, which means in the first 5 years of this loan, or 60 months, they have paid $58,000 in nothing but pure front-loaded interest. And then if they, continue on with this loan and they do not refinance, it's not actually until year 21, when they paid over $302,000 into this mortgage, that they reach the halfway mark. And typically what we see, average American homeowners, about year 4.5, they'll refinance for some reason, lower rate, cash out, whatever it might be, start this cycle all over again continuously. And if we do that 4 or 5 times plus in our life cycle, we become almost renters in our own property. So that's the issue. I'm going to show you an example right here of a larger mortgage with a lower interest rate. It's still the same problem here. Interest year 1, interest year 5, interest year 10, interest year 15. Deep into this mortgage, year 15, still paying over 46% of our total payment to nothing but pure equity, or interest, I'm sorry. So the interest cancellation is how we combat this. This is the solution to the problem. Interest cancellation is another banking principle. We're going to look at that right now because it's key into what we're trying to teach today. In September, for John and Rebecca, their mortgage payment, we already looked and diagnosed where that went, broke that down, we understand. The next 5 months in the amortization schedule, October, November, December, January, and February, there's 2 sides of the amortization schedule. You have the principal amount that John and Rebecca owe, and you have the interest associated with those months of payments. Now, in this example, John and Rebecca were to hop ahead or get ahead of that principal loan amount and the amortization for these 5 months. It's going to cost them, if you add up all of this, $1,010.54. Now, in this example, if this happened for John and Rebecca, what's also going to happen for them is going to cancel out the interest associated with these months of payments because they've already been made. The key concept here is to understand that we agree on a 30-year term to 360 payments. We do not agree to 360 interest payments. And one of the biggest things that we teach our clients is, no matter if you're investing your money or eliminating debt, where do I send my money to get the most bang for my buck? And in here, this example, that $1,010 of prepaid principal is actually going to cancel out and save us almost $5,000. So a 5-to-1 return there is pretty solid. Let's take it just a step further. And let's say in that month 1 of that amortization schedule, John and Rebecca were to add an additional $5,000 to the principal amount. We're going to see in a minute where this comes from, but in this example right here, at this moment, we want to see what that does to the loan. So that means $61.99 goes to the mortgage servicer. That eliminates 23 payments. It does not mean that John and Rebecca do not have a mortgage payment due next month. It just means when we look at that amortization schedule, instead of payment $359, we're going to be at payment $337. And once again, 2 things we want to look at. A, where did this money come from? We'll take a look at that. And then B, what is this actually doing? What type of return are John and Rebecca getting on that money? Well, when $5,000 is applied in that example to this amortization schedule, you're going to see that it's a pretty solid return. That $5,000 applied to the principal is now canceled out interest totaling over $23,000. That's bank smart. That's all we're trying to teach. Don't do what the bank tells you to do. Mimic what the bank actually does. The bank understands, and the financial institutions understand, the concept of no stagnant money. Smart investors, as well as our clients, do exactly what the banks do. From kind of an aerial point of view, it's a pretty simple concept. Move the right amount of money at the right time from one account to the other account and just let it sit for the right length of time. Now, banks have proved this so well, they use our money. Money's either working for or against us. We have to understand that. It's always in movement and flow. If it's not working for us, it's working, for somebody else. Banks sweep our checking accounts, our savings accounts of all their clients every single day, and they use our money to earn interest for themselves while we sleep. The only reason I bring this up here to reinforce the concept that money does not sleep. It's 24/7, 365. When we start to understand that, we want to learn how to bank like a bank and have our money always working for us. The banks get it done and our clients get it done with what's called an offset account. Now, there are many, many, many different things that our clients in the past have used for offset accounts. And we have additional free education on offset accounts, wealth, whatever it is that you need, we provide from our side. You can see the list here of some examples, anything from lines of credit, down to some insurance products, something as simple as a savings account. Many things can be used. Key concept here is going to be an A-B scenario. It's going to be A, our money, or it's going to be B, somebody else's money. For John and Rebecca, they're using other people's money in the form of the bank's money in the form of an open-ended credit line. So remember, we learned about the closed-end earlier. The difference is here, whereas the closed-end is a one-way street, you want to envision this as a two-way street. So money can go both in for payments as well as out for withdrawals. There's no preset amortization schedule, and that interest is calculated based on the daily balance. So basically, the client here, John and Rebecca, they're going to pay interest on the money they use at any given time they actually use it. So let's go back in that $5,000 that we talked about earlier that was applied to the mortgage. Let's go ahead and talk about where it came from for John and Rebecca's situation. In John and Rebecca's situation, they are using the offset account in the form of a HELOC. That's a home equity line of credit. They pay 10% interest on. And of course, the mortgage we discussed earlier, they pay 6% on. Before, we understand the difference in the structure of these loans, it would throw up a red flag. Why in the world would I use a 10% vehicle to pay down a 6% vehicle? But now that we understand the difference in the structures, we understand. So in this example, that $5,000 that we applied to the mortgage earlier, that we saw what it did, it's coming from a home equity line of credit. So it goes from the equity line of credit, it's applied to the mortgage. Well, we already know what that did to the mortgage. It canceled $23,000 of interest, eliminated 23 payments. The problem that John and Rebecca have created for themselves is that this HELOC right here actually creates another monthly bill for them. It's really not what we're trying to do, not what John and Rebecca were trying to accomplish. So we're going to extend into another banking principle real quick, float and leverage. It's easier said than done for a lot of us because the concept pretty easy to understand. We are using a credit card provider and we are charging whatever on the credit card, but we are making sure that we're not carrying a balance here. We're going to pay that off before the interest hits. We're going to float the interest, which allows us to leverage that lender's money interest-free 25, 30 days. We are buying time here. For us, we understand the concept. For an algorithm that's built on millions of lines of code, it's a heavy arbitrage opportunity, and it will take advantage of that. Remember, we have not talked to John and Rebecca about their financial situation in terms of the expense side. Many advisors, financial coaches, planners out there want them to look at that side as the only answer in terms of cut out this, don't do that, cut back on this. We are not telling them to do anything other than continue to do what you're doing right now, but just do it in a new manner that puts them at the front of the table instead of their lender. So here we're going to show strategic cash flow here and money movement without disrupting the standard of living. They owe $5,000 to the home equity line of credit. A net 30 for them, that means a month to pay is $5,000. In this example, if they go ahead and use that to pay the HELOC back to a zero balance, has $15,000 back available now if we need it, but we owe nothing on the HELOC. But in this situation, we've used a net 30 to pay this down. We still got a month of expenses here that equal $4,000. In this example, John and Rebecca discuss as a couple. They decide whatever's going to give them the best benefit. Sky Miles rewards cash back. They're going to charge. Remember, and they are going to basically float the interest here and leverage that lender's money. So that $4,000, we're going to buy some time here. But right before that interest hits, we're going to have the HELOC, or John and Rebecca are going to have the HELOC come back and pay that in full. So if there are questions about this, you want to make sure they understand this. This is strategic cash flow movement. We are disrupting this amortization schedule, saving us time and money without disrupting John and Rebecca's standard of living. Very important here. This is one example of strategic cash flow. There are many. So when we look at this, our system really is going to do all the hard work for us and then give us very simple step-by-step instructions to get us where we want to go. Remember, when we talk about mapping technology, we already use that in terms of our GPS to get us different physical locations. This is no different in terms of the technology. The difference is we're talking about personal finance here. Where's our money now? Where does our money want to be in the future? And how do we map out the most efficient route to get us there? Well, in John and Rebecca's situation, a starting dashboard, first time they logged in, they got 9.9 years to be completely debt-free. They've got about $67,000 in change remaining in interest. But look at this. They have the potential to save $164,600. This would be like the end destination. This is where we're trying to get to. We haven't started. We haven't gone anywhere. We're just getting started. So we've actualized zero of that. And then inside what we call the action plan here, it's color-coded to make it easy for us. The green would be money coming into the household. The blue would be some type of a debt obligation. The black, whether they are buckets of unitemized budgets or whether they are individual, the black is expenses, normal expenses. And then you can see this blue right here with these lines is an offset. That's strategic money movement. And you can see here, we've already discussed this, that John and Rebecca are using a home equity line of credit. We want to know and we want to discover what happens in these offsets. So let's take a look. Two things happen during that offset. Number one, when you look at that amortization schedule, remember this is month 2 of John and Rebecca's principal payment. That's the interest they were going to pay in month 2. But what happens when this is applied to the principal? Two key things. The first thing is we're going to get a next month and an ongoing principal jump. You can see here that they've got almost a $32 principal jump in month 2 as well as ongoing. That's the ongoing impact of this offset. There's also an immediate impact of this offset. And for John and Rebecca, that was the immediate cancellation of $29,000 plus an interest and the immediate elimination of 29 payments. So the combination, like a boxer with a combination punch, you've got the immediate impact of an offset right here. You've got the ongoing impact of that offset. Now, after 7 months, you can see they're down to 9.3 years, a little bit over 60 grand remaining in interest still. Still got the potential to reach that same endpoint. But look at this. They've actualized $59,000 of that potential savings in the first number of months. And look at this. You know, there's, once again, when there's an offset that's being instructed by the system, you know, regardless of how the offset is set up, we talked about that earlier, and we talked about the fact that we have additional free education on the best offsets for our clients. So let's revisit that, what's happening with that offset that we just saw. Well, going into that month 5, they've got 309 payments left. Month 6, they got 308 payments left. When that offset is made right here, in month 7, there's an immediate impact. It's dropping 16 payments right here. But remember, that's only half of what's happening, because in the next month, month 8, we're going to get a principal jump again. And this one's going to be another almost $21, which means the cumulative effect of what John and Rebecca have done in the first number of months here is a total of $81 a month going forward in principal jumps over that 8-month period. And then through that 7 months, canceled $59,000 of interest and eliminated 61 payments. Remember, there is always choices and options in life. For John and Rebecca, they could have done absolutely nothing. They could have stayed the course with their lender. Well, let's kind of evaluate and see what would have happened. If they would have stayed with their lender's plan after 7 months on their loan, they would have owed $198,585. We're not getting much of anywhere here. With the Money Max technology, they're down to $183,796. Now, the telltale sign here, to get right here, what we accomplished in 7 months in the conventional plan, will take John and Rebecca 5.7 years. They're talking about a 30-year commitment here. We've driven it under a decade at 9.9. We talked about almost this criminal interest that the lender's going to make on this loan. John and Rebecca have driven it down to just a tad over $67,000. So yes, the lender, the bank, they are going to make money. Our job is to help eliminate as much of that profit as possible. In John and Rebecca's situation, 20 years and $164,600 in savings. You know, whether they want to build retirement accounts, start a business, travel more, whatever it is, our job is to eliminate it, put it back in their pocket. And if they want additional assistance on what to do with that, we have, like I said, much, much more free education that we can offer. So really, when you look at the kind of the choices that you have, you know, doing nothing, doing it on your own, or using the software to map it out and give step-by-step instructions. If we were, let's say, John and Rebecca, or really anybody that we're talking to, let's say they want to do this on their own. Well, the first question we've got is, okay, if this was your situation, based on what we learned today, what's your first move here? What do you think you're tackling first? How are we going to approach this? You know, that the good thing is, and the easy part is, this program will do all the tough decisions for you, do all the tough calculations for you, and give you step-by-step instructions. If we try to do it ourselves, then what eventually happens hopefully, is that we take time, energy, resources, get through the complicated, complex parts of it, and we learn to do some of this on our own. But I can guarantee you with 100% certainty that no matter how great we get at doing this on our own, we are never, ever, ever going to match the strategic payoff of this algorithm and this program. It stands alone. That's really what we wanted to bring as an answer to the marketplace, mapping technology that basically we already use. We're going to apply it to personal finance and our money to get us to the end destination we want, rather than just drifting into somewhere, ending up wherever. It's disruptive technology, and we're going to talk about why it is in a few different ways. But first of all, disruptive technology changes the way we live, work, engage, communicate. So when we look at this piece of software, we look at what it can do and is doing for our clients, it's very disruptive in the personal finance sector. One of the things that proves it's disruptive technology is the recognition. It was nominated in 2008 for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, won that for the financial services division, which means for a potential person looking at this company, intensive due diligence was done, past award winners, very familiar company. Another reason it's disruptive technology is the results. We talked about the lenders have their money working hard for them. Now it's your turn. Our clients are finding amazing results. And in just a minute, when we're done here, I will show you an updated real-time tracker to see exactly what's happening with our clients. Another reason it's the piece of disruptive technology is the client usability on the front end. The program, like I said, does all the hard work for us, and then it tells us exact dollar amount, the exact date, the most efficient accounts, and it is always 24/7 calculating the most strategic mathematical solution to zero debt. Now, another reason it's disruptive technology is because, like I said, on the back end, it's doing a lot of work. 24/7, it's like having digital advisors, accountants, all in a software program, and this is what it's doing. Every single day, every single hour, minute, the amount owed, term of each debt, the interest rate, and the payment amount, and then at any given time, income and expenses. These are variables sometimes. Things happen. I will tell you that no matter what happens, good, bad, or ugly with our financial situation, we input this into the technology and it will give us instructions on how to get through that period of time as well as how to get back on track. So, when we look at our financial situation, things happen, right? And we might have job loss, we might have some unexpected bills that come up, whatever it happens. Life does happen. This system, like we were just talking about, can digest what's going on in real time, give us instructions on how to get through that period of time, and always recalculate our path to zero debt, just like a real GPS. If we're making a involuntary or a voluntary turn that's off the map or off the instructions, it'll recalculate. Same thing here. The MoneyMax account and the software, in order to give you the best possible report, presentation, tell you what your possibilities are, it needs to know, and I call, what we bring to our financial fight. But we have learned through today that if we have these things, great. Let's bring them and let's include them into our situation so we can see exact possibilities. But if we do not have any of these things, we can run reports and see possibilities with just checking and saving. So don't let the fact that you might not have some of these other things in place, disqualify you from going in and seeing what the possibilities are. I have several clients working with just checking savings accounts, receiving, as good of end results as people with other, lines of credit, etc. And there's three types of people that we really help. And then before we really get into that, the main thing that we want to know is, hey, based on what you've seen today, I'm going to show you a couple more things that, you'll really like. Did you get value out of the education today? And if they did, great. There's three types of people that, when you look at our clientele, that we really can help. Number one, somebody's burdened by debt. They need to get rid of it as quickly as possible, depending on what their situation and numbers look like, potentially help them. Number two, People that want to rapidly increase equity in their homes. They can leverage that money into other investments, whether that be additional real estate, other asset classes. This is a client that we do help. And then number 3, people that want to learn how to convert debt to wealth. Another one of our client personas. Out of these 3, are they 1, 2, all 3 of these? None of these types of people. And then, from this point forward, we have the opportunity to do 2 things. Number 1, we want to revisit real quick the results.